We know there is a lot that's affecting our state right now and the entire nation with the government shutdown affecting families, also President Nelson's funeral today, and the special session on redistricting.
And former Utah Governor Gary Herbert is here right now joining us live to tell us more about it. Thanks for being with us, Governor. We always love talking with you.
Well, thank you. I enjoy being on. Thank you very much for having me. And there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, let's start with the government shutdown. How would you say it's affecting Utah families right now?
Well, probably minimally right now, but it's going to get worse as we go on down the road if we can't find some kind of resolution. And the fight between Democrats and Republicans is really a sign of not anybody wanting to solve the problem. If they want to solve it, they could. Again, I think we all as Americans ought to understand we're at $37.5 trillion in debt, adding about $2 trillion every year. That's not sustainable. And so somebody's got to do something. Well, that's the Republicans' argument. We've got to cut somewhere. Sure, there's going to be some pain, but if we don't do it, we're going to have some real bad issues of our economy collapsing and the problems that will be associated with that. So that's a problem. On the other hand, the Democrats are concerned about cuts to Medicaid, health care, the subsidy for the Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, and those are clashing right now, and we don't seem to see any way to get a compromise. But I think the furor will continue until we find somebody to step up and say, here's a way to get out of this mess.
Well, does that take negotiation? I guess how uncommon is it to see them not even meeting or discussing anything to make a change?
Well, it's not uncommon. People, they dig their feet in, and say, I'm not going to budge, I'm not going to budge. And that's part of the bravado that comes with political parties. But somebody's going to be talking behind the scenes, even if they're not letting people know about it, and say, how do we find a resolution that's the proverbial win-win? Democrats want to have a win, Republicans want to have a win. The stalemate causes the public to suffer, and both parties will be blamed for that. I think right now, according to the latest polls, show that Republican Party is probably getting most of the blame for this by a small margin, but that'll shift back and forth. I think somebody will have to step. We've got to find a resolution here. We've put this off long enough.
And what about services? How much are we lacking on them now?
Well, I think some of the WIC programs would be a problem. I think the air traffic controllers we hear about all the time, the shutting down of the national parks. That happened during my term in office too, but we actually funded the money ourselves to keep them open. It's too big of an economic catastrophe if we don't have them open, particularly for those who make their living really by supporting the parks, or there'll be restaurants or lodging and those kinds of things. So I think that the state will step up and will work with the people on what they're saying they're willing to do is have a skeleton crew out there. During my term, they wouldn't let any kind of a skeleton crew. It's either full contingent or we're closing them down. So we're going to feel some pinches here and there. Most public won't, but that will grow over time. And so the cry will get louder and louder and louder until finally I think something will break loose.
Like TSA and air traffic controllers, I mean, they're still working, but they're not getting paid. So what, they call in sick? That happened at one of the California airports just yesterday.
That's correct. And again, we'll have absenteeism. It will probably spike a little bit during this time. The interesting thing is those people that don't get paid will get paid later on. We've never seen a time when those who, even though they didn't work, will be reimbursed for the time that they could have worked. And so I don't worry too much about those. Some are going to be maybe furloughed, which would be let go. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. There's a lot of, again, talking about we're going to fire people, and I don't know if that's really a solution to the problem either. Both parties really need to sit down and say, what are we going to do about this growing debt? That really is a major problem, something that needs to be addressed, and it's going to take some leadership saying, we're not going to kick the can down the road anymore. We're actually going to do something about it today.
All right, let's change the subject now. Of course, Utah mourning the loss of President Nelson, paying tribute to him and his legacy. Your experiences with President Nelson?
Well, I've had it when he was in the Quorum of 12, and then when he was as the prophet and president of the LDS Church. By any standard, he's quite a remarkable man. I mean, he spoke about 6 different languages. He had a photographic memory, perfect pitch. He could play the piano by ear, and was certainly a religious leader, a man of God, and had a vision for the future for all of us, whether you're LDS or not. He was beloved by all people. And again, I think the personality of the man, the fact that he cared about other people and wanted to help everybody be elevated and become more Christ-like, more like our Heavenly Father, is something that attracted all religions to Russell Nelson.
And do you think that is the crux of his legacy?
Well, he's certainly known for announcing a lot of temples.
Yes.
And he traveled. I mean, 101 years old. I mean, he had a lot of vim and vigor. You know, his time as president of the LDS Church, in spite of his age, he was outworking people half his age and doing more. So the temples, the vision he had for the future, growth of the church, what we needed to do to invite people who left the church to come back. I mean, there's just a lot of topics that he was very good at and talked about. And I think everybody understood his sincerity and desire to have everybody come together and be recognized as God's children. The fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man is something he taught all the time. If we all could believe that, it would be a great world to live in.
And working with other religions as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to talk about redistricting, and right now we're in the midst of that. How do you think this is all going to play out now that it looks like they've got some boundaries drawn?
Well, ultimately, the courts will have the last decision to make, and probably will weigh in on it. I expect that the Democrats are going to sue over this latest iteration. I think the Republicans are saying, you know, there's no place in the Constitution where the courts make up the maps. And with every census, we have the responsibility through the legislature to, in fact, redistrict. It's not as easy as some people think, you know, like we're going to make it all fair and equal. But when you think in terms of our about 3.5 million population, every district has to have about 800,000 plus people in it to meet the criteria. We have about 900,000, maybe 950,000 registered Republicans in the state. We have about 200,000 registered Democrats. We have about 550 to 600,000 unaffiliated. Well, unless you gerrymander, it's hard to have a Democrat district, and that's right the crux of the problem for the Democrat side. We want to have a district that we can control and own, but it's just hard to do with those numbers. I mean, that's the reality of Utah, is that you know, we outnumber Democrats 4-1, and the unaffiliated, probably half of them tilt to the right also.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy thing to do, unless you have to cherry stem Salt Lake City, go up to Park City and tag them together. But I think the legislature is trying to follow the court decision. They don't like it. They certainly let everybody know about it.
But initially, do you think that the legislature handled it appropriately? That's why we're kind of messing around with this right now, because they felt that they just kind of shunned off Prop 4.
Well, that was probably a mistake they made by just ignoring the will of the people through Prop 4, the initiative. But coming back now, they're trying to follow exactly, precisely what the court has decided and told them to do. And I think they're saying we're doing that, and this is what we're coming up with. The Democrats will sue. I expect it'll go back to court, and Judge Gibson will have to make a decision on whether they have followed the law or not. If they did, then they'll be acceptable to this new redistricting plan. If not, then they'll make them go back to the drawing board. That probably means 2 more years, though, of what we currently have on the books.
Not in time for the next general election, but they said a non-legislative committee came up with a map, and then the legislative committee is the one that they voted on yesterday, and that one passed 8-2, and of course the 2 Democrats on that committee are the 2 that voted against it.
No. Well, again, we understand the fight. Again, everybody claims gerrymandering, but for most people across the country, if you gerrymander the way I want, it's okay. If you don't gerrymander the way I want, it's not okay, and you're out of line. But it's been an ongoing tussle since the beginning of our republic.
Okay.
Well, Governor Herbert, thank you very much for taking some time to talk with us this morning. We really appreciate that.
Always great to hear from you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
It's always great to be on. Thank you for all you do.
Okay, we'll see you later.